For years, Indian students made up the largest group of international students in the US, UK, and Canada. But in 2025, something has been changing. Applications are dropping and faster, and students are pulling back, and parents are rethinking. And countries that once built their education systems on Indian enrollments are starting to panic. So, what exactly happened? So, let's break down that sharp decline in Indian student interest and why the dream is no longer what it used to be. Just 5 years ago, studying abroad was seen as the ultimate goal for many Indian families. Getting into a Canadian college or a UK university was like getting a golden ticket to better jobs, permanent residency, and a new life. But in 2025, the conversations sound extremely different. Now, students are saying, it's not worth the money. I'm not sure if I will get to stay after my study. And is the degree even useful anymore if I ever return to India? So something has shifted definitely, and it's not just seems to be a temporary one. Recently, in the Indian Express article, they reported a sharp decline in student applications to all three major destinations that includes US, UK, and Canada. So let's start with Canada, the country that saw record breaking numbers of Indian students between 2019 and 2022. In fact, at one point, over 40% of international students in Canada were from India. But in late 2023 and into 2024, everything began to unravel because of student visa backlogs, PGWP limitations, permanent residency uncertainty, and low return on investment or 1 year diplomas. And also adding on to that, housing markets and cost of living has been increasing. Those also contributed to the factors. And then came the cap on international students in 2024. Suddenly, schools that were accepting anyone with tuition money started saying no. And the path to PR became a lot more unpredictable. Means the trust broke. In 2025, Indian families are saying, if we can't get a clear return on investment, why are we even spending 30 lakhs or more for a diploma that leads the students nowhere? And after that, the colleges are feeling the pinch, seats are going empty, and Canada, which once depended on Indian enrollments to fund its tuition, is now scrambling to recalibrate. The UK saw a big boom post Brexit. In 2021, they introduced the graduate route, a 2 year post study work visa, and it was a game changer for many Indian students who rushed in and applied. And by 2023, India has made up the largest group of international students in the UK. But here's what went wrong. The UK began reviewing immigration rules again, and there were talks of cutting back dependent visas for international students. The pound weakened, making costs even higher. And most importantly, the job market didn't deliver once the students started graduating. And with that, many students found themselves in low wage jobs, unable to secure sponsorships or real career opportunities. So by 2025, students are asking, do I really want to invest 25 to 30 lakhs for a UK degree if the only job I get is retail or an admin job? So the value proposition is not holding up there as well. Now let's talk about the US. The perception has always been, and this is one of the dream countries for many of the Indian students for sure. They think it's great for STEM, amazing for research, and there are strong university brands in this country. But for the average Indian student today, the US has major barriers. Expensive tuition, often it's about 30 to 50 lakhs or more for masters. Limited OPT timelines, which was about 1 to 3 years, depending on the kind of program that the student enrolls. F1 to H1B to green card. Path is long, uncertain, and luck based. And visa interview rejections have increased in the last 2 years, we typically observe. So even though the US still offers some of the best programs in the world, students are being more selective. Instead of going through the traditional route, many are switching to European countries, considering hybrid or remote degrees, or even people are willing to stay back in India and join the global companies. So the dream of the American degree is still alive, but only for the few who can afford it and wait years for stability. So if Canada, the UK, and the US are all facing a pullback, so where are Indian students going? They're going to Germany, France, or Netherlands because it's more affordable. They have English taught programs and path to work permits, and the permanent residency is much more clearer. And if somebody wants to go get a diversified view of experience, they're also going to UAE and Singapore because it's pretty closer to India, high quality campuses, and have a very strong job market for skilled graduates for sure. And a lot of them are also willing to stay in India because the Indian market is certainly evolving, is what we see. The global banks are hiring. Parents are more cautious about risky educational investments abroad because you could probably get a master's in India with half of what you might spend here in the US or UK or Canada, right? So this shift is not a blip, it's a wake up call for government institutions and the global educational business. And from my point of view, here's what we will likely see next. Universities in Canada, UK, and US try to rebuild the trust with more transparent outcomes, scholarships, and student support because many of these countries' brand has on a dilemma, right? Countries like Australia, Ireland, and parts of Europe gaining more Indian interest and a growing focus on outcomes and not just degrees because students want to know, will I get a job? Will I get to stay in the country where I go to study? And for Indian families, of course, there is a quiet recalibration happening. And it's no longer just about the foreign tag, it's about ROI written on investment, safety, stability, and long term value that they get after studying from those countries. So, for decades, the West relied on Indian students to fuel their education economy. But in 2025, the script is flipping. And today's students are asking harder questions, and the old promises like study here, settle there, don't work anymore. And this isn't the end of international education, of course, but it's the end of blind faith. And maybe it's the beginning of something more thoughtful, more balanced, and more fair for everyone involved who was ready to invest that lakhs of rupees on education. Let's see what's going to change in the next few years.